Good morning, it is Tuesday the 9th of June, 2020. I am Barry Hutchison. This is notes from a Scottish author, my YouTube slash podcast series. Normally I do this outside, but I've already been for my walk this morning and I forgot to take the phone with me. So I'm in my office today. I'm trying to catch up on some work because I've been spending all my time mucking around making videos for the last week. So I'm trying to do some more writing today. So I head down, glasses on the head. They have been on the eyes, which is more useful, but I took them off to do this. My computer just beeped. So today I thought I would talk a bit about my comic writing work. I mentioned yesterday that I'm planning doing a Space Team comic, which will be published through my own publishing company. However, I have written comics now for 4 or 5 years, I think. I grew up reading comics. I've always been obsessed with comics. I still read comics. I love comics. I think comics are a fantastic art form. And I grew up reading mostly British comics. The Beano, the Dandy, Whizzer and Chips, and the occasional. It was hard to get American comics certainly in Fort William in the Highlands. There were UK versions of American comics. So there was like a UK Batman comic which collected some US Batman stories, and there was a Superman and there was a Spider-Man. So there were UK editions done by Marvel UK and presumably DC UK. And I loved them. I was obsessed with them. I read them all the time. I read them before I read books. I still read them now. And when maybe 4 or 5 years ago now, a friend of mine, Tommy Dombavand, who's sadly no longer with us, huge inspiration of mine, huge influence on my work. He passed away but just over a year ago. And he started writing for the Beano. And he suggested he said they're looking for writers and suggested I get in touch. So I got in touch and said, can I write for the Beano? And they basically wrote back and said no. So I wrote back again and said, go on. And they eventually let me send in a sample script. They said, send us a sample script for the characters Gnasher and Nipper. Dennis's dogs. Dennis's dog's Gnasher and Nipper is Gnasher's son. So I did the script, sent it in, and they said, okay, yeah, we can use this. And then they got me writing for various characters. I've done the Bash Street Kids, which were a favourite. I kind of ended up doing Ball Boy for a while. Ball Boy for about 3 years. Ball Boy, if you don't know, is a character in the Beano who just likes football. That's it. That's the entire gimmick. So it's difficult to draw 150 original stories based on that, particularly if you are like me and know nothing about football and have very little interest in the game. But I did that. I wrote Gnasher and Nipper a lot. As I said, did Bash Street Kids, various other characters. During that time, I was also writing some licensed fiction comics. So I wrote the Minecraft comic. I wrote... What else did I do? DC Superhero Girls, DreamWorks Trolls. I wrote 6 or 7 DreamWorks Trolls comics, despite never once having seen the movie. Still haven't seen it. What else did I do? Power Rangers, and I'm still doing Power Rangers now at the moment. So yeah, I did quite a few different comics. There were other ones as well, but I can't remember. One thing though, I was a big fan of the TV series Adventure Time, the animated series, Cartoon Network in the States, and I had written the A to Z of Adventure Time for the publisher I can't remember. It was a kind of hardback non-fiction book, and I spent about, not non-fiction, it was kind of a non-fiction fiction book. It was an A to Z of all the characters, places, things that happen in the series. And I basically got paid to sit around and watch every episode of Adventure Time, which was fantastic. And then write about it. It's quite difficult doing an A to Z though, because you really have to list everything in alphabetical order, I suppose. But you have to do quite a bit of research, which is not really my strong point. So I did that, and then there was the Adventure Time comic, and I really wanted to write for that. So I got the editor's name and I emailed him and said I'd like to write for this. These are the other comics I've done, and he said send us a sample in. So I sent a sample, and they liked it, and they were going to use it. And then the comic kind of came to a halt. Comic stopped. And so my script was never used, so I never got to write for that, which I was kind of gutted about because I really liked that script and I really liked Adventure Time. And then kind of fast forward about a year later, and I got an email from that editor asking if I was interested in writing a comic series based on an animated US TV series called Supermansion. Supermansion, if you don't know, it's quite a niche thing even in the States. It's a stop motion animation series made by the guys who made the Robot Chicken series. It stars Bryan Cranston as the main character, and he's also executive producer of the show. It has Chris Pine from Star Trek, Wonder Woman, and various other kind of big name stars as the voices of these characters. And they're a superhero team led by Titanium Rex, who is an elderly, kind of like Superman, but as an elderly equivalent who has various medical issues that come with old age. And I had never seen it at that point. I'd seen the trailer as it happened and thought it looked really funny, but I'd never seen the show. It was quite difficult to find over here. But I was asked if I'd be interested in trying out for the comic, and I did. I kind of come up with some ideas and I pitched those, and I got the gig writing the comic. It was a 4-issue miniseries, which was later collected into this graphic novel, Supermansion. That's Titanium Rex there. That's what they look like in the show. Apologies if you're listening on the podcast, you cannot see the graphic novel I'm holding up, but it says Supermansion on it and it's got pictures of stuff. So I hope that helps you visualise it. So I did those, and those scripts were all run by run through the producers of the show, and Zeb Wells, who created it. Zeb Wells is also a comic writer who's done loads of stuff, lots of Spider-Man stuff and Ant-Man and various other things. And Zeb was really pleased with them, to the extent that they asked if I'd be interested in writing an episode of the show, which I did for the 3rd season of Supermansion. So I have written for Bryan Cranston, which is a claim to fame, I think. But that's one of my TV projects that I've done. I've done a few different TV projects. I'll talk about those tomorrow because it's quite interesting. If you're interested in writing for TV, really don't try to replicate my approach because it is unlikely to work. But I'll talk more about that tomorrow. For now, I'm going to crack back on with some writing, since that's my main job. And I will speak to you again tomorrow about TV stuff. Bye for now.